start
happened?
posting your questions and let us know where you're
Okay.
viewing
See,
from.
there's Jared says.
What's going on with these guys? Jared just
With these guys. Oh man.
I don't know if it's my internet. I don't know.
It's loading right now.
Okay, it's loading. Now what?
That's on our
Now I
side.
think it's live. Can you see?
Okay,
it?
are we live?
We need to wait for 20 seconds. 20 seconds.
Oh man.
You're live, bro.
This is probably Zuckerberg.
Yeah, I'm finished.
You're probably
I
live.
think you're live right now.
I'm live right now. Okay, folks. Jeff was saying, and I don't know if it was off camera when we did it, but he said if I was running for any office right now, I'd be finished. And he's right. And I told my team here today, I said, if we don't get this right tonight, we're going to lose viewers. So, I don't know. This is all new medium for us, and we appreciate you bearing with us. I'm not going to go back through all of my preamble stuff, and because I'm hoping you heard it. I think we were live for 8 minutes, but we're back on. And we're here with comedian Jeff Allen. Jeff is the author of the term Happy Wife, Happy Life, and we're going to talk about that. Jeff, welcome into the live stream at the Upper Room. How are you tonight?
Thank you, man. If you have any millennial listeners to this tonight, they are just trashing us as boomers.
I'm done.
This is boomers.
Yeah, I'll tell you, this is just craziness. But we're doing this on Zoom tonight. Last night we did it on another medium and had some problems.
Yes.
So we are experimenting and we're working it out. But we are live, and we've got a great picture of Jeff. Jeff, tell us about. Let's talk about that. Happy Wife, Happy Life.
Actually, that came from Tammy. We were laying in bed one morning and she just uttered the phrase, happy wife, happy life. And I thought, that's kind of catchy. And I ran with it. And at one point, it was very funny. I copyrighted it because I wanted to license it. I thought I could make some money on it. I remember Pat Riley copyrighted Three-Peat.
Yeah, that's right.
He's made a pile of money on Three-Peat.
Yeah.
Well, I thought the same thing for Happy Wife, Happy Life. Oh, that was a catchy thing, right? So anyway, at some point, some television show was using it, and they were claiming it as theirs. So I hired a copyright attorney, and I sued him, and I collected $25,000, and my legal fees were $28,000. So I told Tammy, I said, I could really go after everybody for this and be broke in about 6 months. So I opted to drop the copyright and just let it go.
So you got the point of diminishing returns. You got to figure out when to walk away. And isn't that the
I
case?
actually unleashed Tammy on the internet. She just started sending cease and desist letters as if she was an attorney.
Is that right?
Yeah, for people that, and some woman from Australia emailed me directly that said, Jeff Allen, you are a mean man.
Well, gosh, so everybody listening, when next time you hear somebody say happy wife, happy life, look at the guy on the screen here. This is the guy. Well, yeah. Tammy, his wonderful wife, was the one that coined that term. And yes, that's where it came from. So, and it's such a great term too, because, for us guys, you got to keep mama happy, right?
Right.
Is that sexist? I don't know.
I don't know, but I got a friend that sells Mercedes in Beverly Hills.
Yeah. And
he said he sold more than one Mercedes to a husband using the phrase. It's simple. It's a bumper sticker. It's just simple, sure. And we can get that.
Yeah. So tell us, how are you and Tammy doing in this sequestration or this what do they call it? Quarantine space. I don't know what they call it, but how you guys been doing with it?
It's interesting. A couple weeks ago, we were doing something on Facebook together, and she pointed out the fact that it was the first time in our entire 34 years that I was home 30 consecutive days.
Wow.
And we are just you have an ebb and flow. You work with your wife, so there's this ebb and flow of we have our moments. Let's just say we have our moments.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's been if this is what retirement is, I think I'm going to have to find something to do in retirement. Tammy said last week She goes, I love Jeff like a boyfriend. I like it when he visits, but I don't want to live with him.
I've actually heard that from a lot of friends that I have who are in the music business who tour. And they're saying the wives aren't used to having them home. And it's a bit of an adjustment. So that's a reality.
It's a high divorce rate. It's a high divorce rate. Husbands
Yeah.
who retire after 40 years on the job or something, and then they're home constantly. Within a year or two, the wife goes, I can't take you being home. I'm done. You know? So I'm trying to keep my distance, you know, and I look forward, believe it or not, I look forward to yard work. That's the one thing to come out of this, man. I've learned that weed whacking string matters. You have to get a good, I used to think they were all equal. They're not.
Yeah.
You buy a good quality weed whacking string, and you can go to town on it.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
I used to look at the guy when I was working and had money. I would pay a guy to do my lawn, and I'd watch him with just envy. He was so good.
Yeah.
He did in 30 minutes what took me all day to do.
Yeah.
And I was just blown away. He was an artist. He was an absolute weed whacking artist.
Well, those guys have the top of the line stuff too. You know, the little house ones we buy, those things just fall apart so quickly. And
right.
Yeah, you got
That's what I
you
like
got to
to
get a
tell
good
myself.
weed whacker, right? I mean, isn't that one of the things of life?
I have a good one. I have a Husqvarna. I can't even pronounce it.
Oh, you have a Husqvarna?
I got a gas one, man. But I found the string, man. It's the string.
The
I
string?
had this cheap garbage string. I bought like a silo full of it for $12.
Yeah.
And it works for about a foot. And then it, you know, and then you got to restring the thing. Tammy will tell you. I mean, I forget I'm a Christian man when I'm putting that string in there. I mean,
Well,
I
you
really
can't buy
do.
the cheap stuff. That's like buying the 27 packs of underwear for $2.99, right?
Right.
You're
Well,
going to
not
pay
that
the
I've ever
price.
done that, Ron, but,
You're going to pay the
I'll
price.
take your word for it.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you. Well, we're going downhill quick here, but so you're doing some weed
Hey,
weed
stick with
whacking.
me,
and-
man. You will be off the air for permanent, for good by the end of this thing. So
That's so true. So let's talk about your career. You know, I'm always interested in comedians because, you know, they don't offer comedy in high school or college. You know, you don't take comedy 101. I imagine.
no, it's not part of career day. You don't
Yeah,
see
it's
a
not
table
part of
set
career
up.
day.
Yeah, of clowns and jugglers. You know.
So I'm always interested as to how in the world did you get into comedy and what was the impetus? What happened there?
Well, the interesting thing was my brother was a musician and he was playing a club one night and I saw a comedy team go up and they were absolutely hysterical. I later became good friends with them. Matter of fact, one of them grew up in the same small town I grew up in. And I was doing jewelry shows in Chicago. And one night we were finished up kind of late, about 9 o'clock at night. And someone said, hey, there's a comedy club around the corner. And anyway, I went in and I got hooked. That was probably August of 78. And I went every night of the week to watch these comedians.
Really?
And I wanted to do it. And it took me till November to work the courage up or drink the courage up. I think, you know, I got a little trashed. And at the time I was doing close-up magic. I used to do magic.
Oh, you did?
At parties and stuff. I was never a professional, but I was good enough to sit at a table and do card tricks and stuff and entertain people. And anyway, I brought it up on stage and I was so drunk on Thursday night, that was open mic night. I went home and my reaction to shame and humiliation is always to punch something. So I just punched holes in my closet.
Really?
Yeah, it was humiliating. I went home. I was just, because for 3 months I was there every night and everybody knew that I wanted to do it. And I finally worked the courage up. So every comic in the building came out to see me work. And it was just humiliating. And I went back Sunday night to do another open mic night. And this big black MC came over to me and he says, you're going to have to make some sense tonight. We're still trying to figure out what you said Thursday night. And that was my start of comedy. I was so full of stage fright that I couldn't, the MCs could not leave the room for 5 minutes because they didn't know if I was going to do 5 seconds or 5 minutes. I would some nights look at the crowd, draw a blank, and then run off the stage.
Wow. So, and what made you go back after having
That's
those kind of experiences?
that's what Tammy asked
Most
me.
normal people would just go, I'm done with this, you know?
Right, exactly. exactly. I don't know if I was a sadist or a masochist because someone in that room was getting punched and enjoying it, you know. So. But I knew that if I got past the fear, and I have that kind of personality, it wouldn't have been unusual for me to do something like get competent at it and then leave the business, knowing that I was at least able to do. I wanted to get better than what I was.
Yeah.
And you know, it's well documented. I'm an alcoholic. I was, you know, in the throes of alcoholism. So what a great place to hang out. And you know, if you like to nap, get a job at a mattress factory, you know, and you know, you like to drink, find a way to make a few bucks in a bar.
Yeah, no doubt.
So that was 78. So by 1980, I had developed some skill and some time. And that's when the country exploded with comedy clubs nationwide.
Yeah.
They were already in big cities like Chicago, Detroit, New York, LA, San Francisco, Boston. But the rest of the country, it just exploded. So I was able to hit the road at the age of 23 or 4, work 45, 50 weeks with limited skills, still make a few bucks and develop some skills. So it was a great learning experience.
So when you started that out and you were just having bad times on stage, at what point did you really feel like, okay, hey, I've got an act together. I've got some good stuff. I got good material. People are responding. How long did that take to develop that?
Oh, about 20 years.
You're still doing it?
I'm not kidding you.
No, I'm sure that's true.
I'm not kidding you. I'm all, you know, this, you know me, I'm neurotic, but
Yeah.
It's interesting to me because of Facebook, people that I knew back then, comics that I worked with, have reached out and they say nice complimentary things about, but I was in the throes of an addiction. And I always looked at other comics as the standard, and I wasn't there. I looked at better people than me, and that was the standard. So you're never reaching the standard, which was good. I mean, I was always working different material, and probably about the age of 40 was when I really settled in to being comfortable with what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
You know, Shakespeare said, "To thine own self be true." I kept denying. I wanted to be a social commentator at one point, which Tammy finally, after about 3 years of losing work, told me, "Stop it."
You mean like kind of like a Mort Saul or kind of like thing?
Well, no, like Dennis Miller. I wanted to be somebody that talked about what they heard and saw in the news, and I wanted to. And the fact that I was a little right of center in a comedy club in a city like Boston didn't go too well.
That doesn't go too well.
No. And then on top of that, I was, you know, like most people that have opinions, I was strong. You know, I was the only one that had the right opinion. So I was arrogant enough to have somebody want to beat me up more than once after a show. So
is that right?
I tried that, you know, and the stuff that came to me naturally is the stuff I'm doing today.
Yeah.
But I kept pushing back against it. Again, I wanted to be hipper. I wanted to be more relevant. And there came a point where, you know, everything, of course, you know the story. Everything's imploded. And by my late 30s, I actually applied for a job to deliver Domino's pizzas because I couldn't go back out anymore. I just was tired of the road and not knowing, you know, what I wanted to do. It was almost like, you know, okay, when you grow up, what do you want to do with your life? You know?
Yeah.
And so when I finally came to my faith and I got on my knees and I basically said to God, okay, if this is what you want me to do, you take it, you find places for me to work because I can't do the clubs anymore. And by then I had started cleaning up the show. Long before I came to my faith, that was a challenge I took. I realized I was too clean to be dirty and too dirty to be clean. I was kind of in this morass where I just cussed a lot. I didn't, you know, and then I saw Dice Clay one night on a thing, and I looked at Tammy and said, the next guy that's going to break out of this pack to be a big star in comedy, he's going to have to be dirty. He's going to have to go beyond that. And there was no way I could see myself going beyond that.
Yeah.
So I pulled back and went the other way. I said, I wonder if I can work clean, you know? And I paid my kids 25 cents for every cuss word that came out of my mouth.
Did you? How much did you end up paying them?
Oh, a lot early on. They were doing well. Matter of fact, my 7-year-old son bought himself a VW bug.
Did he really?
After a month. No.
No. He's the only one that's got a good bug.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, you got a good bug. Yeah.
He's got a good bug. So we hear Tammy in there. Can we see her face for a second?
No.
No, she's
No?
not,
Okay.
she's not made up. And
Oh, okay. Yeah.
she bought one
boy,
of those
that's-
mirrors. She bought one of those mirrors. You know, I'm sure Kathy has one that
Yeah.
magnifies by 1,000. You know, and you can see blackheads that are 7 inches deep inside your skin. So she could sit there and tear herself apart day in and day out. You know. And,
Yeah, there's a point of magnification that you don't want to go beyond, you know, because there's some things that just don't look good. You know what I'm saying?
No, and you know, if you're bothered by wrinkles, you know, my mother, when she had LASIK surgery in her 70s, she goes,
Yeah.
Jeffrey, I didn't know I was so old. And my house is filthy.
I can see again. Hey, I'm going to
Yeah.
interject here. Hey, everybody who's watching, start typing in some questions. We'd love to answer questions, and because we're going to do some time with Q&A with Jeff. But as you're typing them in, we'll keep going. So going back, Jeff, you said that you know, having standards for different artists that you kind of held yourself up to. Who were your standards? Who were your influences in comedy?
Well, as far as Cosby was and Carlin.
Yeah.
And then when I started, I wanted to be Richard Pryor. I thought, you know, as a white suburban kid, that would be one that you aspire to, you know. But I did all the mannerisms. I was doing cocaine, so I would do Richard Pryor, but because I was a white suburban kid, nobody picked up on the fact that I was doing, and I'm a bad impersonator, so nobody knew I was doing. One of the greatest compliments I ever got was when that black MC came over to me and goes, "You sure you're white?" You know, and I thought, man, I'm there. I remember telling my mother, I wish I was a minority. I'd give me so much more to talk about.
You'd have more,
You know?
it'd give you more material.
Yeah. I wish I'd suffered more, you know?
Yeah.
You know?
So Cosby, of course, you know, it's not
Cosby and
politically-
Carlin. And
yeah.
I woke up in high school to Carlin's Class Clown album. I would put it on while I was getting dressed for school.
Yeah.
And then Steve Martin, of course, when he came out of Saturday Night Live, that stuff. I remember watching Steve Martin one night and falling off the couch because that's the way I laughed. You know, I just, you know, rolled around and writhed on the ground when somebody was funny. And my father stood there, watched the whole routine, looked at me, looked back at the TV and just shrugged and went, I don't get it. You know, the whole arrow through the head, the banjo. And,
Yeah. No, that stuff was cutting edge. I remember myself just thinking this stuff is hilarious. And I think it's a generational thing. Maybe they didn't get it, but
no. You know, my dad was a big comedy fan. I think that was one of the reasons why I also probably migrated towards that. He was a jazz musician. My brother chose music, and they fought constantly because my brother wanted to play rock and roll, and my dad was my brother was classically trained in guitar, and my father would argue with him about all you want to play is 3 chords, you know. And so I started to play guitar when I was in high school because my brother was one of my heroes. And I just realized that, one, the dedication that it takes to become good at an instrument, I didn't have. And two, I think that my father had a great laugh and a great sense of humor, and he was a brilliant storyteller. My father probably could have been a world-class actor. His ability to do dialects, he could hear a dialect, he had perfect pitch. He was invited to Juilliard to play music out of the Army, and he opted for art school to paint. But I was always intimidated, even up until the day my father died, to tell a joke in front of my father. He always just looked like he was impatient. He'll get to the punchline.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
And but anyway, the fact that I can remember sitting around the hi-fi, I'm sure you remember one of those,
Sure
playing
do.
comedy albums, and with my mom and my dad and everybody laughing at Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
And those were good times that I remember. there were a lot of things I could choose not to, to remember that were not necessarily that
sure.
good, but that's one of them. And to this day, there's nothing better than to hear Tammy laughing or my kids laughing, or you know that, man.
Yeah. Oh,
I get that
absolutely.
all the time from husbands, man, that just
Yeah.
say, what a night we had watching the show. To hear my wife laugh like that.
Yeah.
It's a heartwarming thing. So I feel as I'm blessed that I have something to offer. And I believe it honors God in that anyway.
Well, I think it is an important part of, I mean, God created comedy. I mean, he created, irony and it's, I'm sure Jesus had a sense of humor.
I wish the scriptures had it where Jesus, when Peter would say something, he would just go, yeah, right. Rather than you'll deny me 3 times before the rooster crows. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, sure you are, Pete.
Yeah, right. Okay. I got
Well, isn't it something you said that sarcasm and I forgot the other are your two fruits, are your character traits? Are you
Oh, that was our love language.
The
Bitterness
love
and
language, that was
sarcasm.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's our love language. Bitterness and
Yeah.
sarcasm.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to go to a question here. I've got one from Cheryl Lynn, and she wants to know, how did you meet Tammy?
She was a waitress at a comedy club, and because I'm nobody lies to me more than I lie to myself. The week before I went to that comedy club, I said I'll never date another waitress from a club again. And the next that lasted 3 days. I saw Tammy and I asked her out. So every time she tells me I have no discipline, I go, look, if I had any kind of discipline, I would have never dated you. So, but I heard her laughing in the back of the room, and I thought, wow, she thinks I'm funny, which is nice. And then when I got off stage, I sought her out, and just absolutely floored me with how beautiful she was. And anyway, we started hanging out that week, and she had a 2-year-old son, and she was a single mom with 2 jobs, working her tail off. And that's impressive to me, someone that works that hard to take care of their kid. And I was living in LA at the time, so we developed that relationship. And anyway, that was November, and then April I asked her to marry me. And,
Wow. And that was in LA you met her?
Well, I met her in Cleveland, Cuyahoga Falls. That's where we got married, Ohio, at Hilarities,
So does she still laugh at you?
Baggage claim.
Oh, and Baggage Claim.
In Baggage Claim, that's where you asked her?
I asked her to marry me at Cleveland Hopkins Airport, Baggage Claim. I was flying on a red eye from LA she was going to pick me up about 6 a.m. in Cleveland, and about Nebraska, I had my 6th or 7th vodka tonic. And tonic is good for this COVID or coronavirus.
That's what I've heard.
Which is probably why I haven't gotten it yet. So I'm still on the residual 1700.
You still got it. It's still working its way out.
Way back in my 30s. So anyway, I bought Nebraska. I decided I'd ask her to marry me. I had not given it really a thought until I got on the plane, I guess, and anyway, by the time I landed, I had no ring. I had nothing. And I said, do you want to get married? And she said, pardon me? I said, do you want to get married? She said, yeah, if that's what you want. That's how excited she was at the prospect of spending the rest of her life with me.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, Ron, I corrected that. I don't know. We went to Israel back in February, right before this whole thing.
Right.
And I bought her a ring in Israel, and I asked her to marry me in Israel. So that's the new story.
So you redeemed yourself.
I redeemed her new story, so I want to hear it.
Is he off the hook, Tammy?
What?
Is he off the hook?
Is he off the hook?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
It's part 2. It's the wedding story part 2.
Part 2. Yeah, we'd watch movies where a guy did it right, that one
Right.
knee, special place, asked the dad for the knee
Yeah.
and all that. And she's sobbing like a 4-year-old. And I go, I'm sorry. All right, I'm sorry. I'll ask you again. She goes, too late. My story's Baggage Claim.
I was kind of the same way. I didn't know these guys just nowadays, these guys go to all this, crazy stuff to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, skywriting,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd probably misspell the name or something. It's funny too. My grandmother called her Pam for like her
Pammy.
Pammy with
Pammy.
a P. Yeah, instead of Tammy, Pammy. And so anyway, I was downstairs cleaning my office today, and I found something that was probably put there 6 years ago. That's how long it's been since I cleaned the office. and it was this family history stuff on my grandfather, my paternal grandfather and paternal grandmother. And according to this thing, my grandmother was sharp as a tack. You could have asked her the grandkids' names, grandkids' birthdays. She died at 97 or 98.
She was a shoe model.
And she was a shoe model.
A shoe model.
And but she called my wife Pam for this sharp as a tack woman. Called my wife Pam.
Pammy.
And
How funny.
I worked for a guy once and called me Steve for months. Just Steve, and I correct him. It's Jeff, Steve, and then one day he finally called me Jeff, and I went, "No, I'm Steve."
Yeah, they get to a point where you kind of go, man, it's going to be awkward to correct them now, right?
Well, it's it. I mean, after 16 times, you just got answered to Steve.
I
So
guess
don't
I'm just
care.
Steve. Yeah.
And then one day we're all in the lunchroom, and he goes, Jeff, and I went, "I'm Steve." And the look on his face. So, yeah.
Oh man, that's crazy. All right, so we got another question from
Porn.
or let's see, Scott Dixon. Do you? And I'm sorry, I'm not looking. I have to look at another computer here. Do you play in front of secular crowds, i.e., non-church crowds anymore? And if so, does your approach change? Good question.
The approach does not change. As a matter of fact, I was at Irvine Improv. I'm going back, hopefully July or August. I'm not sure which. I hope. That,
Yeah, I remember you were there last time you were
we're
out
up and
here.
running. Yeah, we sold 400 and almost sold the room out. But yeah, I've been. I'm going to probably do 30 to 40 comedy clubs by the end of this year. Hopefully, they're all scheduled. And theaters, Delaware, we had a sold out show that got canceled in March, moved. Everything's been postponed and moved. But and I don't change anything from the only thing I do different in the church is if they ask, I'll tell my story on how I came to know Christ.
But tell your radio story as far as where you got confused over Goliath.
Oh, yeah. And I was doing a book media. I wrote a book years ago. It's number 287,000 on Amazon right now. So it's rising.
Got to be
with
bringing in some dough then.
At one point I was 288,000. So, but I sold, I don't know, anyway. But at the time, the publisher set up media, and they would set up secular media and Christian media. And sometimes I got confused. And the only difference between talking to Christian radio and talking to secular radio is I would invoke scripture in the Christian radio. I would talk about. So anyway, I got it confused one day. I called a Seattle radio station, and I started talking about Galatians 5:19 through 21 or 26, whatever, the fruits of the Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, the guy goes, "Galoshes? Who wears galoshes in the Bible? I thought Jesus wore sandals." And I said, "This is not Christian radio, is it?" He goes, "No, you called the dentist Satan, pal."
Oh my gosh.
So that night I went on stage and I said, "By the way, how many people heard me on such and such radio station this morning?" And 2 people raised their hand. And I said, "How long did they talk about me after I hung up?" She goes, "Not more than 5 minutes." So.
Well, your comedy it transcends. It's not quote unquote Christian. It's family stuff. It's material that everybody can relate to.
Well, you got to define whatever Christian comedy would be anyway. I mean, it's like Christian music. You're still playing notes.
Right. Yeah.
There's lyrics that honor Christ.
Right.
And there's lyrics that listen to Lauren Daigle.
Yeah.
And you would never know that that was, that she's a Christian artist, I guess,
Right.
But music is music. And same with comedy. Comedy is comedy. And there's, I don't know. When I started in the churches, most of the comedians were humorists, and that's a different thing than a stand-up comedian. A humorist might talk about a misprint in the church bulletin that gets a chuckle here and there. But I brought club comedy into the church, so blame me.
So some of those, but there are those Christian comics that I think of is it Tim Hawkins?
Yeah.
He'll do parodies on church behavior, church people
Right.
behavior, and it's pretty funny to church people. But people that are watching who are not part of church probably wouldn't find it funny or couldn't relate. But
well, satire has to be a relationship, and people ask me why I never parodied the church, and I said I don't know that much about church. I mean, if you're going to step on people's toes or push envelopes or push the line, you have to do it intelligently, and you have to do it knowingly. You'd be a fool to go out and do satire. That's why I almost got beat up, on the road early in my career, dealing with hecklers. I didn't know where the line was, and I mean, I trash. When you trash a man in front of his wife or girlfriend,
oh
yeah, I mean, the pride gets kicked in. So I had to be careful about that. I had a guy pacing the parking lot one night for 45 minutes like a caged cat.
no kidding.
Yeah, a club owner wanted me out of the club. I said, I'm not leaving unless you call the police and get me out of this car. I said, this guy's more motivated than I am. I'm not going to roll around the parking lot
doubt
with some lunatic,
Yeah.
But, all I said to him was when he got back from the bathroom was, I hope you peed that attitude out of you,
Yeah. Yeah.
And he took offense to that.
Yeah.
And then I said to his wife, what's it like living with a time bomb? This must be a joy.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. So
So Mike Saunders wants to know, were you ever a class clown? And if so, describe some pranks.
I think the word obnoxious came up a lot.
Yeah.
I was, before ADD was a thing, I was, I was pretty high. I couldn't sit in my chair. I got beat a lot. I always thought that was ironic. They wanted me to sit down and then they'd wrap me with 2x4s on the bottom.
No kidding.
Yeah. Oh, I got headbutted.
Wow.
I got slammed against lockers. I got, that was the day, man. These millennials have no idea what school was like, what true school was like. Yeah.
It was tough.
Yeah, it was. It was. And you couldn't go home and tell your dad because your dad had punched you.
That's right. And we didn't even have to wear helmets, right? On our bikes.
Not at all. Not at all. But I don't know. I was never a prankster. I was just obnoxious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody's surprised at what I do for a living that knew me growing up. They're not surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's another question from Mandy League, and it's, what is your biggest challenge in your career as a famous comedian?
COVID-19.
COVID-19.
Yeah, it was, I don't know how to, that's the biggest challenge right now for me, honestly, is social media is eating up my material. And we're now playing clips from tapes I did in 1979.
12 years old.
Yeah, I think they're using my high school yearbook stuff.
How are they getting a hold of? They just going on in
No, Jared, I have a social media guy, and we sent him everything I've ever done, everything.
Oh, okay.
And, he just calls it and pulls things out.
VHSs from
VHS.
from
Yeah.
1928.
There was one. I was looking at stuff one day, and my kid walked in. He was 31 years old, and he looked at the TV and he said, "Who's that?" And I go, "That's me." And he goes,
kidding.
"What?" And he walked over and he looked. He goes, "How old were you?" I said, "I think 25 or 26 years old."
Wow.
So that's when they had the vacuum tube VHS machines.
Yeah. Well, you definitely had a different look. I've seen some of those old clips, and
Oh my gosh.
I had hair.
Still Tammy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, definitely.
I love reading the feed too from the Facebook where people go, "No, he's old now. He has no hair."
Well, you've toned up too, because when you were out, you and I went to the gym, and man, you were doing, what is that system you were working on? That
I was working on Body Beast at the time.
Body Beast.
Sergey.
Yeah,
I do beach body stuff. I just started P90X3 today, and I have to work out. I've always said the road will kill me if I don't.
Yeah.
So it's I try to maintain some semblance of cardio.
Yeah.
Where and strength, but COVID doesn't care.
COVID doesn't care. Well, I just remember.
But I did survive COVID 1 through 18. I want you to know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, we're here for 19, right? And we're waiting for 20 now. And I understand that there are going to be some new strains of this coming. So,
Yeah. Bring it on.
let's see. We had another
Who needs to
question, I
work?
think. Let's see. Oh,
Government
well,
has plenty of paper. They can print plenty of money.
yeah, that's right. Did you get your stimulus check yet?
What?
Okay, my wife Kathy, she's watching and she's asking. Oh, this is probably for you, Tammy. Well, do you still own chickens? Remember that story?
Boxers.
Well, I know the boxers. Tammy's a breeder of boxers, but
It froze up.
you guys were having some chicken problems, as I recall, when we saw you last.
all our
Oh, chickens. We have one left. Sole
You got one
survivor.
left.
And the funniest thing is, this was the dumbest hen we had. This is the only hen that could get out of the area, but never could figure out how to get back in. Every night she'd be pacing back and forth while all the other chickens were in the coop and roosted, and she's pacing the yard back and forth. So we had to run her in, and all the other ones got killed, eaten, and she's alive. And she got mauled by the dogs. Our youngest dog, our newest one, Boyd, mauled her. And we were on the road, Tammy and I together, and my son calls me. He goes, I think she's gone, man. Should you want me to put a shovel to her neck, and because her insides, well, this is the South,
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that didn't grow up, or I don't know anybody I know around here that grew up around here, didn't go into the yard, grab a chicken, wring its neck and bring it in, and their grandmother cooked it. I don't know one of them.
That's what you do in Tennessee.
We
right?
name them and they're pets, but
Our neighbor man killed one.
yeah, our neighbor man shot our rooster, shot our rooster because it was coming after his 4-year-old granddaughter, and he reached in his pocket, pulled out a pistol and shot our rooster.
Prairie vigilante out in Tennessee.
And then
right?
I come out there and I go, oh, man, what'd you do? And he goes, hey man, like he goes, it was coming at me, and I go, I don't care. My wife might have something to say. So I called Tammy. She was on the road, and I called her up. And I said, the neighbor man shot the rooster. And she goes, that bastard had it coming.
Well, I recall when you guys were out last, you had one
Yeah,
chicken that was kind of on the brinks of,
of dying.
You guys were pretty upset about it, and
That was
right.
Betty. That was Betty.
And,
Betty. So Betty's
then,
finally.
And then Aaron said he wanted to. Should I put her out? And I said, well, what's she doing? He says she's standing here. I said, if she's standing, then leave her alone.
Yeah.
And she lived. She's walking the yard every day now.
Is she still with us?
No, Tanya doctored her. Tanya,
Yeah.
our pet sitter.
Our pet sitter was.
She doctored her up and fixed her all up, and
Yeah.
she's good. All
You don't.
hairs
So
come
these are
back
for
and-
these are for eggs. You don't plump them up and then eat them, right? So
No, and we don't even get eggs. That lazy thing. She hasn't.
She's just there for her looks.
If she produced an egg, she'd probably scare her. She'd run off.
Just taking space.
She's just pretty.
Right,
She's
that's
here
it.
for her looks.
And we do. We feed her, and but every night it's did you put the chicken away? Oh yeah, I forgot.
No, she's just here for her looks. She's a good-looking girl.
But
She's a good-looking girl.
That's
huh?
what Tammy wanted for the 25th wedding anniversary, was a chicken coop.
Wow.
So I had a friend of mine who built. He framed Dave Ramsey's house. He had a framing company, and I played a lot of golf with him. And I said, my wife wants a chicken coop for the anniversary gift. And he says, I'll build you one. And I go, do you know how to build a chicken coop? He goes, that's what Google is for. So this chicken coop has full electricity, a ceiling fan,
Oh my gosh.
2 windows because chickens want to crossbreeze, a ramp and a door. And
They have beds in there, and
I wanted it built well enough to where if she ever threw me out of the house, I could just go live in the chicken coop. Me and Betty.
Sweep it out.
Do they have cable in there as well? Or not cable? Well,
Could be wired.
It could be wired
Yeah.
for cable. It's got
Okay.
electricity. So
yeah.
put the dish on.
Well, I did see your coop when we were out at your place
That's
about a year
right.
ago.
It's pretty
It's
fancy.
pretty nice. Yeah.
It's not as fancy as his house, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yes, it's good for a chicken.
Yeah.
it's good.
Hey, we got another question from Ed Personius. This is my assistant Maurice's father, Ed,
Oh.
and he wants to know, how do you even do a white Richard Pryor? Today, people would bash you for cultural appropriation.
Absolutely. Yeah, this was 1980.
Yeah.
You know? It was the America I grew up
This is
in.
before political correctness, right?
Right, exactly. When people actually had a sense of humor about things like our cultural differences. You know? As if there are no differences. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all one and the same.
So the white Richard Pryor didn't go over too well, though, huh?
Well, it wouldn't go over today. Plus,
Yeah, no, it certainly
I don't.
wouldn't.
I have no desire to be him. I want to be me. I want to be
Yeah.
me.
You want to be me.
Yes.
So
Watch it, man. I may break into song.
you might break into song. You are a scratch golfer.
Not anymore, but I
No,
was.
come on.
Close.
Yeah,
Close.
I'm a 5 or 6 handicap.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, you know, I'll share a little story. When I was out with visiting you guys, Kathy and I, and you took me golfing. I thought, well, you know, I play, I don't know, maybe once every couple months. And usually I'm okay, but you know, I'm not that good. But I absolutely had the absolute worst golf day I ever had that day. And you were so kind, because it was just you and I out there, and you were getting the ball out there, and we were on the same cart, I think. Yeah, we were on the same cart. So you had to go chase the ball with me. And I was thinking, oh man, he probably just thinks that this is the worst thing. So.
Well, actually, I enjoyed the company, but my dad told me a story years ago. A friend of his, when my dad was a young man, went to Greenbrier, where Sam Snead was the head pro.
Yeah.
So anyway, the guy's on the first tee. Sam walks out and goes, "You mind if I join you?" Who doesn't want to play golf with Sam Snead?
Sure.
So anyway, the guy said, he goes, "I saw him on the tee, I saw him on the green, and that was it. We were never close to each other the whole day." And he goes, "I got home and I got a bill in the mail from Sam Snead, golf, $50. Never told him he was charging him for the company. So I noticed you never sent my 50 to me. That's all. That's what I was telling you about there.
Well, you did ask me to play with you again, so I'm pleased.
Oh,
with that.
yeah. When you come out to pick up your daughter's stuff,
Yeah.
Bring your sticks.
All right, I will do it.
We're open in Tennessee.
Yeah, well, the golf course is open there, right? Did they just
That's
open?
right. Well, yeah, they just came out today and said being in the sunshine is probably the best place you can be for this thing.
Yeah.
If the sun would ever shine in Nashville.
Well, say Governor Lee said that social distancing, which
Right.
you do on the golf course.
Yeah, social distancing. Again, we don't, I stopped kissing my playing partners months ago. So.
Well, you know, you and I were talking about this yesterday before we went live, and some of these things are so ridiculous. You know, they said that you can't have more than 2 people on a cart, and you wanted to have Tammy just come out and ride with you, and they wouldn't let that. And she said, "Oh my God, I live with her, for gosh sakes." You know,
Well, a mother and her 9-year-old son, they wouldn't let go.
I mean,
the
that's
mother
just
even
crazy.
said, we live together. You know that, right? So, I mean, and that's why people are protesting. It's not the fact that we understand masks and distancing and washing our hands, and we understand that this is a dangerous, dangerous thing. We're not idiots.
Yeah.
But for gosh sakes, I want to buy seed to plant my lawn. You know, Tennessee, fortunately, we have a governor that's pretty centered, pragmatic.
Right.
And his handling of all of this to me, has been fine. So we'll see. I think he's opening up tomorrow. Not Nashville, Davidson County will not be opening up because they haven't qualified for the phase 1 yet. But every other county in the area, the 3 big cities, Knoxville, Memphis, and Nashville, are not really opening up yet, my understanding. But all of us in surrounding counties, I live in a rural Tennessee, and I think we can open up the Mexican restaurant for a burrito.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, this is getting crazy. And you got to wonder at what point is this the precautions are becoming worse than the epidemic.
The cure is worse than the
exactly.
And that was my question from day one, was what's the end game? Because it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
So what's the end game? I mean,
right.
And then my understanding was flattening the curve and making sure the hospitals aren't going to be overwhelmed. And I think we're there.
Yeah.
So, and they certainly have enough PPE and all that other stuff that they continue to produce more and more of it.
Right.
So let's let Georgia will be the incubator. Everybody's mad at Georgia.
Right.
So at least we'll find out in 2 weeks or 3 weeks
we will.
if there's a huge spike. then boy, that was a mistake, wasn't it? But if it doesn't spike, or if the cases are not overwhelming the system, then I think you'll see more and more states lighten up a little bit. Hopefully.
Yeah.
I want to get back to work.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. And I was talking to another comic, I think, well, of course, you introduced me to Ron Pearson. He called me the other night, and I said, how you doing? He says, I'm not doing anything, and so all these dates are just.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we had Ron booked to come April to the upper room, and of course, it's all we haven't been able to meet since, and so yeah, it's crazy, just a crazy thing. So we've got a few remaining minutes here. Let's see, do we have any? Well, we got one more question. Is it how? Ed Arthur wants to know, how did the tornado affect you? You guys were pretty much out of that path, weren't you?
We were very blessed. It was west side or east side. We were west side. So it was on the other side of town from us. And we've been pretty lucky. Both big tornadoes have gone around us. The one year, Lenny and I were playing golf at the state park. And I came home and Tammy says, where were you? I said, we were on the golf course. And she pointed at the TV. And apparently the tornado kind of went right over us.
Did it really?
And around us and destroyed downtown Nashville while we were out. And I said, well, it got a little breezy, but
yeah,
we didn't notice it, but she punched me. She punched me for being out there.
Yeah,
She
but
did.
we pray for the families and their
Right.
loved ones
Of
and
course.
their lost.
Yeah, we pray,
There
and
were neighborhoods that lost tens and 20s of people, and it was
Yeah.
just absolutely
right,
horrible.
and it gets lost in the middle of this virus.
Yeah,
That these
certainly
people are still putting their lives back together again amidst all of this.
Yeah, that really threw it off the front page, didn't it? And
Yes, it did.
as you
And
mentioned,
then even later than that was Chattanooga. 3 weeks later, there was like 8 or 10 people, whole neighborhoods. You look at the pictures and you go, holy
Right.
cow,
Right.
gone, just totally wiped off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those were 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
I know the night of the one that went through Nashville, and as you mentioned, our youngest daughter goes to school out there in
Yeah.
Right.
at Belmont, and she texted us and said they're making us go down into the basement because there's a tornado coming through, and it came pretty close. I think it was about a half a mile from the campus
Right.
there at Belmont. So,
That's what's so mind-boggling about when I have flown in afterwards, and you
Yeah.
see the path.
can you
from up
actually see a
above.
swath where it's
And
going
it's
through?
just it's so random. It goes. And I remember when the flood came, one side of the street was pristine, the other side of the street was wiped out by the flood, just based on the elevation of the one side to the other.
Yeah,
And it's just it's just a random thing. And we thank God that we were spared, and
yeah,
we try to help as much as we can.
absolutely,
What
absolutely.
about our church in the 15?
Oh, this Sunday, our church is going to be part of a drive-in church to stand up for religious liberty. There's 15 churches. We're all going to drive in our cars, and they're going to do a service like at a drive-in where you leave,
Yeah,
your windows roll up and listen on the radio. And
And it's Way FM, which is a
it-
big
yeah,
station.
and anyway, there's 15 churches involved, and we're going to be part of that.
are they allowing that to happen? Because I know
Yep.
even
Yeah,
Our
Bill Lee.
governor.
Bill actually, our governor goes to our church. So
does he?
when our pastor announced that we were going to do this, I thought that was kind of cool. So,
Yeah, that's great.
anyway, we should
Yeah.
be allowed to worship, and again, we're not idiots,
Yes, indeed. And
We're
that's
not licking doorknobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to get back to licking my doorknobs.
that's right. I
As
missed
long
it.
as it's
I miss
85
those
degrees
days.
and 80% humidity, I'll be safe.
Hey, Jeff, in our remaining few minutes here, let's talk a little bit about it, if you would. I know you do it a lot in some of the venues you do, and we can maybe do an abbreviated version of it. But you have a pretty amazing story about how you came to faith and in Christ. And could you share a little bit about that? And I know you kind of set it up earlier.
To back it up, I was 13 or 14 years old when my father sat me down to tell me there was no God.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I had won an award for a baseball all-star tournament, an MVP award. I was the best that week. And I was admiring my little trophy. And my father came in to tell me that there'll come a point in your life, if you accelerate through the ranks of baseball and you wind up playing professionally, at some point, God people, that's what he called them, God people will come to you and tell you that what you have accomplished and what you have as far as ability goes was given to you by God. And this is what you tell them. There is no God, and they can kiss your backside.
Wow.
Because he said what bothered him about Christians and God people was the fact that they're never there for all the hard work. And he went on and on and on about how hard I worked and all this stuff. And anyway, I left that day, and that's when I became an atheist. I would tell my church-going friends that there was no God, and everything I have, I did on my own. And what I wasn't able to articulate is what my father called hard work, hitting baseballs till your hands bleed and going out. And I mean, I literally playing in 3 different leagues all summer long. I played spring, summer, winter, fall. I played all year as much as I could. Was that it wasn't hard work, it was joy. And I remember hearing the definition of inspiration years later, that it means God breathed. And in hindsight, looking back at that point in my life, the passion I had, the desire I had, and the fact that I never once complained about the work to get better at it, I believe God breathed that into me, that kind of passion. And when I threw it back in his face, the passion was taken away. The breath was taken away. The skill wasn't. The talent wasn't. But that was when I was 13 or 14. And by the time I got out of high school, I went to college. I played for a junior college. And by then I was drinking full time. I don't think I've touched a hard ball since I was 19 years old. Wow. So I went from all of that in 5 years to never playing the game again and never touching this passion that I had. Now, with that said, by the time I got to be 30, 31 years old, I'd been drinking half my life. I got married at 30, and I realized I couldn't continue to do both. I couldn't continue to drink and do drugs and raise a family. So I went into a 12-step program. They told me to pray. And, my reaction to that was, to what? And what I ended up doing was praying 2 prayers. I wanted to stay sober. So I was around people who were sober. I wanted to do what they told me to do. I wasn't going to be rebellious. I'd had enough of alcohol. I really did. I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Sure.
So the 2 prayers that I use, and to this day I still use them, is God, remove me from the bondage of myself so that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties so that victory over them others may bear witness to thy strength, thy power, and thy way of life. And then the Serenity Prayer, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference, which tells me that courage, wisdom, and acceptance comes from God, not from me. Now, whether or not I believed in it didn't matter to me. I just said those prayers because the people I were around said them and they were sober. I didn't believe in God, but I said those prayers because I wanted to stay sober. And there was a point where I realized that there had to be more than what I believed. I started with self-help. I read John Bradshaw's books, Melody Beattie's stuff on codependency. I got into all of that stuff in the 80s. It was huge. I ended up on New Age, Buddhism. I was seeking an answer to the misery within me and the emptiness. And again, I don't know if anybody knows what it's like to wake up every day of your life without purpose. And I had a job. I mean, if you check the boxes that the world tells you, I had it. I had a beautiful wife I loved. I had healthy children. I had a job that I loved. So check the boxes off. So why am I so miserable? And anyway, God put a man in my life who was a Bible-believing Christian. We developed a friendship through golf and the stuff you discuss on golf courses. And what I didn't know was he was discipling me. I didn't know what the word was. But he left that week. We were working a comedy club together. And he asked for my permission to send me a Bible and some Bible tapes. And at that point, Tammy and I had decided to get a divorce. And we had filed bankruptcy financially. So we were financially bankrupt, morally and spiritually bankrupt. And we were living beyond our means. Anyway, long story short, she takes the kids one summer and leaves me with about a year's worth of Bible tapes. I opened one up and it was Ecclesiastes, which starts out meaningless. All in life is meaningless. And that resonated with me. That was my conclusions. after 8 years of seeking God was that nothing of this earth matters. Nothing. And I remember Tammy saying to me one day, "You act like you don't care." And I said, "I don't. And it bothers me." I mean, I always tell churches when I work, if you're in a marriage state that's full of acrimony, wait till you get to apathy. Apathy is the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my life. At least when you're angry at something, at least there's some passion there and there's some life behind it. But when you get to the point where you've just given up and thrown in the towel, anyway, from Ecclesiastes, I just started studying the Bible, and after about 3 months, I got on my knees and said to Christ, "If you are who you claim to be, then I am yours from this day forward." And I would know right away if he was or he wasn't, because I tried everything else I could get my hands on. And that was, I was 40, so 24 years ago. It is a relationship like every other relationship. We have our conflicts. I don't necessarily like the way he chooses to run the universe sometimes. I catch myself in the middle of this, starting to feel self-pity, as if I'm the only one. And my career was taking off. I was at the peak of a 40-year career.
Yes.
Going forward, everything was just rolling, and
your calendar was.
And anyway, I have to catch myself. There are 330 million people in this country alone going through what I'm going through.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are worse off than me. So I just reached out to a friend of mine, Candy Christmas, who has a ministry called the Bridge Ministry here, and she feeds the homeless. And I wanted to get an idea of what her ministry has been, because she goes under the bridge in Nashville on Tuesday nights.
Her ministry's called Under the
live.
Bridge.
I know that, but she's live normally, and I don't know if they're letting them meet so she can feed the homeless.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because the food lines are now, the food banks, everybody's in their car and people are bringing it out to them.
She was a top Christian performer.
Right.
No kidding. What was her name?
Candy Christmas, which is
Candy Christmas.
She was a gospel singer that is, she's this tiny little thing that wears furs and diamonds, and she always has her hair coiffed, and she runs out every Tuesday for the last 15 years, every Tuesday night, rain, shine, cold, winter, every Tuesday night. And she says to the homeless who have gathered under the bridge in Nashville, she says, "If no one's told you today that they love you, I'm here to tell you I love you and Jesus loves you." And then she breaks into singing, and then she has local churches come out and they do a church service for the people.
And she feeds them.
And then, well, that's what I said.
Feeds them.
And that's what I said. And then she lines them up and she gives them bags of groceries to take back to their house, and she clothes them. And that all started because she was depressed, and she heard a voice that said, "Go feed the homeless." And she says, "I don't know what to feed them." And she's and the voice says, what can you cook?" And she said, "I only know how to make jambalaya." She made a crock pot of jambalaya.
She
and
did.
drove this tiny little thing. This woman drives to the bridge and opens her trunk and feeds the homeless one crock pot of jambalaya. And they grew into this, 5,000 square foot warehouse. And
they're still
an amazing. She's one of my heroes. She's absolutely one of my heroes.
It's putting that faith into action, isn't it? It's just,
it is.
It's amazing. I have a friend who does something very, very similar, and it's, and he loves it. He just absolutely loves what he's doing.
You have to.
You have to.
Tammy and I were going to make that our church. We were going to go down every Tuesday and help her until the weather got cold and we stayed home.
Yeah.
And that's what I realized. I'm in there, man, until it really gets uncomfortable. And then I'll just write a check.
So
Thank you.
sad.
It is sad. It is.
Well, they need funding too, right? So
if Jesus had my feet, he would have never walked anywhere.
Not funny.
Well, that's wonderful. Yeah.
Well, I try.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna wrap up here because we kind of come to the top of the hour, and
Well, it's about time. I've ran out of things to say.
No, we could go on forever. And but if you are one of those people listening tonight, and you stumbled onto this show, and what Jeff was saying happened to strike a chord in you, and you're maybe bewildered, maybe you're just kind of lost in what's going on in the world right now. You're fearful. You might be just having a hard time, or you just need some purpose in your life. there's a God who loves you. There's a Savior who wants to save you. And we would love to talk to you. And if you're feeling that way, would you reach out to us at the Upper Room? And you could send an email to us at info@theupperroompresents. That's info@theupperroompresents. And if you send us an email, give us a contact, and we'd love to contact you and talk to you about what it means to have a faith in Christ and help you get started in that faith. And so please do that. It's info@theupperroompresents.com. Jeff, thank you
Hey.
so much.
Well, thank you. May I do a shameless plug here?
Absolutely.
I have a new dry bar comedy special that just came out, and
Yes.
I'm really, really proud of it. I think it's the best work I've ever put on tape. And they can go to the app, the Dry Bar app on their iPhone, and it's a free app, and the show is free. And it's a nice 30-minute comedy break that they can do. And also they have a Facebook page and everything else. But I am really, really proud of this special. So if you want some comedy, and I think the vast majority of it, probably 90% of it's never been out on tape. So
Yeah. Okay, so they could find that on
yeah, it's called Honor Thy Wife.
Honor Thy
On the
Wife.
Dry Bar Comedy app.
Yeah,
Dry
the
Bar
comedy app.
Comedy
Just go to
app.
Dry Bar. Just go to the iPhone search on the App Store and just put in Dry Bar Comedy. And
Okay,
it'll
Dry
come
Bar
up.
Comedy.
And it's free.
It's free.
Free. Everybody likes free,
Heart,
right?
heart, heart, heart.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah,
Okay,
like it.
yes, like.
I don't know why, like you said, it matters.
It does
does
matter.
matter.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And so, hey, folks listening, we're so thankful that you tuned in tonight. If you want to see some of these past ones, we've interviewed Gary Chapman, singer-songwriter. We've interviewed an actress, Nancy Stafford, used to play on Matlock, and singer-songwriter Paul Clark. They're all on our
Where does she
YouTube page. That's up the Upper Room Presents. You can see them there. And we are going to be interviewing on this coming Monday, April 27th, comedian Victoria Jackson, who you all.
We love Victoria.
We love
Isn't she a wonderful person?
She is.
She's the real deal. She's
one of our dear friends.
Yes, I know. Well, we all got together when we were out
We
there.
had dinner. That's right.
Yes, that's right. And so she's going to be with me on Monday night, the 27th. So tune in then. Thanks for watching. And Jeff and Tammy, thank you for taking this time.
No problem, Ron. We miss you. We love you guys. Give our best to Kath.
Likewise. Love you guys.
All right.
Take care.
Okay.
And thanks for
Bye.
watching.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That was good. That was very good, babe.